Hi, Jim Willis, the Camo Cook here. I've got a little experimentation I'm looking on trying and doing here. It's the deer season, the Wisconsin 9-day gun deer season just got over with. I got a freezer full of venison, so perfect time to try something new and creative. Now, I've done prosciutto with a number of different meats. I've got a video, if you look back at some of my archives there, of how I do my duck breast prosciutto. I thought, you know, I've never done it before. I'm going to try and do it with venison. Do venison and prosciutto. Most of the time when you think of like an Italian prosciutto, it's a dry aged pork, kind of bacony, only really dry, and it's really expensive. And you get it, every time you get it, it's shaved really thin because it costs so much. It takes so long to make. So I figured, why not try and do it with venison? So what I got here is I got 2 venison back straps. I went through, cleaned off most of the silver skin, cut it in half. It was one big loin because I'm going to do it in 2 different ways. If I'm experimenting, I might as well try something new with it, or get a couple of different variables. So I have no clue how this is going to turn out. So if it turns out good, you'll be watching this video. If it does not turn out good, well, I guess nobody's going to see this. So what I'm going to do for my first preparation is I'm going to do a simple plain prosciutto, nothing fancy or anything. But what I'm going to do first is I got some coarse kosher salt. Now you can use coarse sea salts as well. Just make sure you do not use the iodized table salt. Not the right stuff. You don't want to use that. First thing you want to do is grab a non-reactive container. Any non-reactive container. Just don't make it metal because, you know, salt, metal, rust, stuff like that. So I was looking around the house and I found this Corning bake dish. Nice and shallow. Should be perfect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dump a bunch of salt down into the bottom. Alright. Then when you got your good layer of salt, you want to make sure it covers the complete part of the bottom. I mean, you're putting a lot of salt. You're going to use a lot of salt. It seems like it's going to be, holy crap, this is a lot of salt, but really it's not. First one I'm going to do, I'm going to take my backstrap right here and just put it right down into the salt. Alright, now I'm going to tap her down just to make sure that all the little spots and all the little air pockets are pushed down into the salt. That way you got complete contact with it. Now, the other one I'm going to do them up in the same container here so I don't take up a lot of fridge space. But I'm going to take this other one and I'm going to make it peppered. So, what I got here is just some coarse ground black pepper. Like I said, you can stray from the original, just the straight salt, and get kind of creative with it. So what I'm going to do here is liberally pour some pepper onto it, give it a good rub, and then after I got it a good coating of pepper here, I'm going to put it right down into the salt. Now if you see, push them all down into it, make sure it's all down into it good. It's sitting on pretty much a bed of salt. Then I'm going to want to take this kosher salt and literally I am going to bury these things. Now if you see, I got this one that's touching the sides. You're going to want to pull that away. Get them all bedded down into there. You want every single portion of this covered in salt. Like I said, this seems like a lot of salt. It seems excessive, but really it's not. Now we'll go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and cover these 2 up. They're completely buried in salt. give it a lid. This one just happens to have a fancy lid. Otherwise, you can use saran wrap. That's non-reactive. Just make sure, like I said, you don't use metal. You want a non-reactive pan. So I'm going to let this sit in there. I'm going to put it in my fridge, and I'm just going to forget about it for at least a few days. These are probably going to sit in the salt buried like that for probably like 5 days or so. It's going to extract all the moisture out of it. It's going to dry it, and it's going to infuse the salt in it to inhibit bacteria growth and stabilize it and pretty much preserve it. As soon as it comes out of the salt, it's pretty much cooked. The rest of it is how we're going to cure it. And I'll get more to that later on in this video, assuming this works. So, join me back through the magic of television in just a couple of days, and I'll show you what it looks like after just like 2 or 3 days. All right, here we are on day 2. Well, this is night 2. I just got home from the restaurant to work, and I thought I'm gonna break open this prosciutto, this prosciutto, and show you guys exactly kind of what to expect on day 2. See if I can actually dig out. All right, this is what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it out of the salt. I'm gonna brush it off a little bit just to show you, but it's going right back into the salt. I want to keep this into the salt for like 4 or 5 days. I normally wouldn't take it out, mess with it too much when it's in the salt, but if you look, it's really drying out. This is actually looking phenomenal. After the 4 days are up, I'm going to brush the salt off. I'm going to lightly rinse it, pat it dry, and then we'll take it from there. But right now, this is looking like it's going to work pretty good. Kind of excited about this. Like I said before, I've never tried this recipe before. I've never tried doing prosciutto with venison, and I'm pretty excited to see the results, and I'm pretty excited to share with you all what kind of results they are. So there, I just buried it all right back into the salt. A lot of you might say, why do you pack it in so much salt? Does it not get like really salty? No, not really. What happens is the salt is going to form a protective layer around the meat. The outside is going to be salty. There is going to be some salt absorbed into the inside, but normally it doesn't absorb all that salt. It's going to take care of any of the bacteria on the outside. It's fully cooked right now. I could take it off, I could eat it without cooking it, no problem. But it's not going to absorb all the salt. The salt is going to pretty much encapsulate it, but it's not really going to get absorbed too much into the meat. So you're not going to get an overly salty flavor if that's a worry with it literally buried in salt like this. But okay, I'm gonna let it go for 2, maybe 3 more days, and take it back out and start the aging process. So check back with me in a couple of days, and we'll take it from there. Okay, it's been actually about 5 days since I put this in the salt. And I'm going to take it out of the salt, and I'm going to begin the curing and drying process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out. Bring it out over here, yeah. As you can see, it's going to have a lot of salt. You're going to want to take all that salt off as much as possible. You're going to wipe off all that stuff. Give it a quick rinse. It's quicker, but if you give it a quick rinse like that, make sure you're going to want to pat it completely dry. Stuff is dried nicely. It seems to have a pretty good texture to it. And now the peppered one. A lot of moisture pulled out from there. Now I'm not going to want to really rinse this one off because I want to keep all that peppered into it. So I am going to take it and just lightly and gently brush it. It appears to have all come off pretty good. So there's my two kinds I've gotten. I've got just the regular salt cured prosciutto, and then I've got a peppered prosciutto. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and I'm gonna wrap this in cheesecloth, just to kind of help protect it from the elements. But I'm gonna wrap it in cheesecloth, and I'm gonna put it on a baker sheet with a rack, so it's air exposed to all sides. And I'm gonna leave it just hang out like that in my refrigerator for, I don't know, at least a couple of weeks, and I'll come back and check on it. But I really want to let it dry and cure like that in the cheesecloth for about a month. All right, so it's been about 3 weeks now, and I got my prosciutto right here. You know, I haven't even opened this up to see it what exactly it looks like yet. So I'm really hoping it worked out. Let's see, I got my peppered here. It's the first one I seem to unwrap here. See how well we did. It's wrapped in the cheesecloth and then put into the fridge. It's still bendable. It's not going to break or anything like that. Doesn't feel like it has enough moisture in it, but let's find out here. Now, this definitely has a real dark color. My worry about this is if I left enough moisture in it. It's actually feeling really good. So, it's actually really, really good. Got a really, really good salt flavor to it. Good peppery flavor. I actually like that flavor. That's prosciutto. And here's my plain without the pepper. Now, one thing you'll notice with prosciutto when it dries out, a lot of the times you get that nice white coating. A lot of that isn't actually mold or anything like that. It's a lot of the minerals and the salts leaching out of it. It's really dry on the outside. And let's see what she looks like on the inside of this. Beautiful dark meat. This one actually I think has a little bit better, a little bit softer than the other one, the peppered. I mean, it definitely worked, but yeah. I'm definitely happy with these. I think they worked out pretty good. And I'm not too concerned about this. The sanitation's good with that kind of thing. You got to make sure keep it clean and keep a watch out for actual mold. See a lot of that's not really actually mold or anything like that. But if you get any mold on it, to make sure you inspect it completely. You definitely want to play it safe when you're salt curing meats. So hope you found this recipe useful. I'm gonna share this around to some other people and see what they think.